I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates, Mina Kimes.
All right, so first play we're going to look at 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, back with another episode of the Patriots Daily podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, powered by Prize Picks, powered by Game Time, and powered by the Patriots heading into their Week 18 contest against the Buffalo Bills this coming Sunday to wrap up the 2024-2025 season. Now, we usually take our last part of the week, as we've done this season, whether it's Thursday or Friday, as sort of a game preview type of deal. But given the fact that it's backups this weekend for the Bills, and it's likely younger players and some backups probably playing down the stretch for the Patriots. Again, we don't know, but that's kind of what the tea leaves look like. We decided we're going to take this show and call it Players to Watch. And we're going to look at some of the younger guys who we want to see the Patriots put out there, guys we want to perform well, and kind of take a quick look at some of those players, some of the young guys, mainly guys, Joe Milton, the wide receivers, etc. We'll get into all of it. But first and foremost, Taylor, we just got back from Gillette Stadium at practice, speaking with DeMarcus Covington, speaking with Alex Van Pelt. And it kind of felt like, to me, both guys knew that this might be the last time they're speaking to us again. Now, we don't know what coaching decisions are going to be made on this staff, but given where the Patriots are at, given that Gerard Mayo's job status is seemingly up in the air, it kind of seems like everybody's in limbo right now. I think the most jarring part of the entire thing was, when Alex Van Pelt walked off the podium, it felt like every one of us were kind of like, oh, thank you. And he turned and was like, no, thank you guys. I really appreciate you. It kind of, and I know,
it is the last presser that we're going to get
exactly.
with him.
It's the last one of the season anyway, but there was something to it that felt like he might know that this could be his last time. So long story short, that's kind of what we're going to set the stage with today. We're also going to talk about some Pro Bowl topics, some Pro Bowl things, Chris Gonzalez, Brendan Schooler, what have you. But let's start with the coordinators, Taylor. What did you make of what Van Pelt, what Covington had to say today as we enter into this Week 18 of the season?
Honestly, I thought it was kind of same old with Covington. I didn't really get any. It kind of made Van Pelt stand out even more.
Yeah,
it really did kind of feel like business as usual for Covington. He talked about Keon White, their relationship, how like Keon came to his house for Thanksgiving, how they have the same goals, and there was a lot of that. But it didn't really sound reflective. It was really just answering a question that he was posed because Keon kind of spoke out.
He got like the same question on Keon like 3 or 4 times, and he was like, "You guys really gonna keep asking me this? Like, we're fine. We're in the building together every single day. It's just how it is." But it was funny.
It wasn't exactly Mayo though. The other day saying like, "Dude, I literally just answered this. Like, you're asking me the same question." I was like, it looks way worse in the transcript, by the way, than it actually sounded. But I digress. But Van Pelt, it just emphasized more that it did sound like there was a level of awareness, like you said, that he could potentially not be back. And this is a guy who got fired last year, despite the fact that he didn't have a stable quarterback, didn't have Nick Chubb, was missing most of his offensive line, and still managed to make the Browns a consistent offense. So obviously a ton of that was Kevin Stefanski, as we're seeing again this season to a degree.
Yeah, but they went to the postseason last year with all the quarterback troubles. It was insane. And he was the scapegoat there too.
And Van Pelt had some part in that, obviously.
Right.
So, I think he understands the reality of the business. This team is not doing well. I think he realizes they're probably going to want some kind of sacrificial lamb, knows that Covington and Mayo were boys and that he's kind of new. He's really Wolf's boy. So he probably understands I'm not quite as safe. Again, it could have literally just been him knowing that was the last time he was going to speak to us, because we said it so many times. He is the best coach on the podium, and it's not even close.
No.
He looks like someone who is trained, who is seasoned, who understands how to walk the line of being himself, being honest, giving us insightful and helpful answers while not giving too many things away or putting his foot in his mouth. So I think like the media and Alex Van Pelt have a good relationship, and it was really just, I would say definitively it was him being, gracious towards us, but also I'm sure in the back of his head he's like, hey, this could be it for me, even though it's been made very clear over the past few days that firing Van Pelt and keeping other coordinators in Mayo and like that system would not go over well, I don't think, with the locker room.
He's very self-aware, and he's been also the most accountable coach, I would say, all season long. Where now I'm not going to sit here and say that Mayo and Covington have tried to duck away from blame, but Van Pelt's been very, like you said, open and honest about the entire situation and kind of where things are at with the quarterback, with Drake May, with the offense in general. Always has his fellow coaches back in Gerard Mayo, and also always has his players backs in guys like Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, who he's asked about those guys pretty much every week. And every week he says the same thing, where we need more consistency, but I have faith in those guys that they're going to be good players on down the line. And I think it's
man, he's very critical of himself and his players in ways that like Mayo isn't head coach ways, and Covington kind of does in the way that he has to. But with Van Pelt, it's like you can tell when he's really annoyed by the things they're doing wrong, which is a nice breath of fresh air.
Yeah, and you brought up the Cleveland situation last year, and Dakota Randall actually quote tweeted a story from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler today, and he kind of wrote a little bit about where the Browns quarterback situation is at this year, because Jameis Winston had played, Dorian Thompson-Robinson had played. I just mentioned it to you before the show. Bailey Zappi, former Patriots quarterback Bailey Zappi, is starting for Cleveland this weekend, and it's sort of been a train wreck in Cleveland this year with all the quarterback nonsense, where last year Van Pelt and Stefanski were able to weather the storm. And in the article, Fowler wrote about how guys like players and coaches inside the Browns building didn't like that Van Pelt was fired last season. And it was more of like an ownership, higher level, maybe even a front office move rather than it was Stefanski getting rid of Alex Van Pelt. So I find that interesting because he's sort of in a similar situation this year where he may become the scapegoat, but it's not actually his fault. I think it's noteworthy that Hunter Henry, Antonio Gibson, Drake May, so many guys have stood behind Alex Van Pelt this entire season, and players on the defensive side of the ball haven't really done the same for DeMarcus Covington. And I liked that he was asked straight up today by Karen Garigi, and Van Pelt was how he feels about guys coming to his defense. And he straight up was like, no, I love it. That's awesome. Like, it really means a lot to me. So again, he's in a tough situation. And I hope that not just for the sake of him, but for the sake of continuity on offense, if they do keep Gerard Mayo around next year, that it's not Alex Van Pelt that ends up as the sacrificial lamb, because he's done a lot. He's helped with the development. And yeah, the offense hasn't been great, but he's not working with a ton compared to, now granted the defenses had their injuries and what have you, but it feels like it's just Van Pelt overall has done a better job than Covington. And, friendships aside, I think that frankly, Covington should be the move over Van Pelt, but we'll ultimately see what happens.
And we heard the whole thing about Van Pelt and the Browns not really being happy with it from Albert Breer when the Patriots hired him. He was going on the radio and saying, like, this was not something Stefanski wanted.
Right.
The players weren't happy. It was really just because the Hasms needed to make a move because they'd invested in Deshaun Watson.
Right.
He obviously has been playing terrible, has not been good in several years, and they wanted an answer. They looked at the quarterback coach and, Alex Van Pelt as the coordinator and said, you're what's wrong. Even though people in the building, like, I know they said that he balanced Stefanski very well because Stefanski's not really very much of a forward-facing, like, people person.
Right.
And that's where, like, Van Pelt's bread and butter's at. And also with the offense, and anything about this team, offense or defense, that you point to as a pleasant surprise. We were talking about this when we were waiting to get into practice. It really is all offense. On defense, I think the only thing you could say is Jaquelin Roy. That's it. Mm-hmm. Like, truly, that is it. On offense, you could say Austin Hooper. You could say Drake May being as good as he was. You could say the tight end group overall being as dynamic as they were, and one of the more productive tight end groups in the league. You could say Vidarian Lowe, who, yeah, you can give him as much criticism as you want. There have been multiple games where you don't hear Vidarian Lowe's name, or he makes like 2 mistakes. And this is a guy who was getting like taken to the woodshed last year. I think you can say Mike Nwenu, now that he's settled back into right guard. Yeah, he's not perfect, but he's starting to get back into that group of what you were expecting. And then several, I would say, like Ben Brown, Trey Jacobs, have also had games where they're very quiet, which you wouldn't expect from guys who weren't even on active rosters. So I just feel like between TC McCartney, Scott Peters and his group, Bob Bicknell, all of these guys that Van Pelt helped bring in and Wolf helped bring in, they're the guys who it feels like are doing anything positive. And where you say, yeah, I feel like if you gave them more talent, we'd get more out of them. I think Jerry Montgomery, Steve Belichick, and then Mike Pellegrino, I think they're also in a similar kind of boat. Drew Wilkins even. But like with the defense, the bottom line is no one exceeded expectation. It was worse than you expected, even while giving them the benefit of the doubt with the injuries. So I cannot say it enough, man. I think it would be such a huge mistake to make Alex Van Pelt the scapegoat in the situation when you've gotten support from so many different places. And when even like forward facing to us, as much of a disaster as it's been with Mayo, Van Pelt's been pretty fantastic. And I feel like we all are pretty much on the same page about that.
And it almost feels like, now I don't know, but it feels like players, not that they wouldn't care, but they would be more, I guess they would be more okay with the fact that Covington was the scapegoat as opposed to Van Pelt, where I feel like the offense would be truly pretty up. Again, if Mayo stays, if Mayo's gone and somebody else comes in, that head coach has every right to do his own search and figure it out. Now, Van Pelt should be an option, I think, with the players returning, Henry and May and all that stuff. But like if Vrabel comes in here and says, I want to do my own search and decides against it, that's different than Mayo returning and Van Pelt being, being fired. But I think at the end of the day, if Mayo does stay, these offensive players are going to want Alex Van Pelt in the building. And you would hope that ownership, front office, Mayo would kind of hear that and understand that maybe we should look in a different direction here. But we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to the Pro Bowl, Taylor. Brendan Schooler makes his first career Pro Bowl as a special teamer. He's been a stud. He's really been a stud, on that third of the football ever since he got here under Bill Belichick. Now, last year, we talked about it a little bit on our stand-up, which you can watch on the channel a little bit later on when we break this down a little bit more. But Schooler last year struggled a little bit with some discipline and with some on-field penalty issues, but he's really turned a corner this year and has been an absolute monster. So I'll give you, I guess, a moment to kind of talk about Schooler and what you've seen from him and just how cool it is that, it's not great that the Patriots don't have a ton of Pro Bowlers. You look at the Baltimore Ravens have like 9 guys. Minnesota has 6 guys. Patriots only have 1, but it's Brendan Schooler, and it's pretty well deserving.
Yeah, and I'm also going to show some self-awareness here. I understand that no one wants me to sit here for 5 minutes to talk about special teams, so I'll keep it pretty brief. But, I mean, Brendan Schooler, one, I think the discipline and everything, Jeremy Springer deserves some credit. Tom Quinn deserves credit, the assistant special teams coach. We've actually seen the past couple of days Brendan Schooler and Tom Quinn working and repping together a lot, especially when everyone else is warming up. They kind of go off to the side. So those guys deserve credit. Schooler deserves credit for maturing as a player, and I would say probably as a leader as well. We know Matthew Slater loved him. One of the last questions I asked Matthew Slater was, what's it been like to actually get to watch Schooler grow and to be with him towards the end of your career? And he said it was one of the reasons that he actually probably stayed playing as long as he did, and said, like, just showered Brendan Schooler with praise. So to see him kind of slide into those shoes of Matthew Slater as that special teams ace, because Schooler's not just a guy where he excels as a punt cover guy. I think he has the second most tackles on punts in the NFL. Like, that's his bread and butter. But he blocks on kick returns. He blocks on punt returns. He contributes on kickoffs as well. Like, he does a little bit of everything. The guy can also block kicks for you, has such good instincts. And, Jeremy Springer always talks about, like, how he makes his job a lot easier. So all the credit in the world to Brendan Schooler. Got the PFWA's not PFWA. It was the what is it? The Players Association, NFLPA. Yeah,
that's
NFL, okay. He got the NFLPA's, I think it was second team All-Pro award last year. So now he's finally getting some national recognition. Hats off to Brendan Schooler, well deserved.
Yeah, and as much as everybody's down on the Patriots coaching staff right now, Gerard Mayo specifically, a really cool video shared by Patriots.com and their social team with them telling Schooler that he made the Pro Bowl roster. And Mayo, Elliott Wolf there, Jeremy Springer, Tom Quinn you mentioned, and then also Matthew Slater in the room as well with him, and obviously super well deserved. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out. It's pretty cool, and it's something where this is me taking something way too far, as I tend to do. But if you watch the full video, Wolf and Mayo in the same room with Schooler. I know it's not doctored, but it's set up so you see them. But we wonder about the friction and the tension between the front office and the coaching staff right now. Interesting to see them in the same room together doing something like that. But then they also, for the first time I think ever, we've seen like an inside the team meeting room little thing with Gerard Mayo. Something I noticed with him having the locker room is he goes in there, he says, "Good morning, man," and they all go, "Good morning," right back. And I'm like, it feels like there's something in that room that, okay, it's not like guys coming in late. It's not like guys looking at each other, looking at their phones. They were all pretty attentive. Again, it's 1 second of a social media video, but regardless, pretty cool. Check it out. Patriots.com shows Brendan Schooler receiving his Pro Bowl honor. Now, I want to talk about one more other thing in the Pro Bowl. Somebody on the Patriots who was snubbed, but before we do, quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. We are now heading into the playoffs, and it's now or never. So don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. They now offer MasterCard on top of Venmo for easy deposits into your account this sports season. Do you think Lamar Jackson will pass for more than 250 yards this week? Will Patrick Mahomes pass for more than 1.5 touchdowns? Probably not, because Carson Wentz is playing, but try it with Carson Wentz then and cook up your hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season on Prize Picks. And all you got to do is download the app, use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, let's talk about the snub. Christian Gonzalez does not make the Pro Bowl. I don't have the names in front of me. I should probably have it in front of me, but I'll look now. We also got a Patriots injury report just now, Taylor, so we'll react to that in a few minutes. But let's talk about Gonzo first. Christian Gonzalez passed over on defense for Marlon Humphrey, Derek Stingley Jr., Patrick Surtain, and Denzel Ward. I think everyone knows, or everyone thinks he got snubbed, at least in and around here. I know that those guys in front of him are obviously well-deserving. And you also have to look at it this way, where the Pro Bowl is sort of a popularity contest, where a third of it is voted on by fans, and not a lot of fans out there are watching the 3-13 Patriots right now, so not a lot of eyes are on Christian Gonzalez. I think he has garnered the respect from his peers. Tyreek Hill constantly talks about Christian Gonzalez after the games. The #1 receivers across from him always sing his praises. But your thoughts on Gonzo not making the Pro Bowl? And do you think, even though he didn't make the Pro Bowl, do you think he still has a chance with potentially being out this week with the concussion, still making an all-pro team when it's all said and done this year?
Absolutely. I don't think this week would have done anything for his stock. Like when they last played the Bills, he was on the boundary, because I don't really have a lot of guys that truly scare you at wide receiver. Yeah, it was a snub, but also when I looked at a lot of the numbers, especially man coverage, I was like, all right, Marlon Humphrey, Derek Stingley, Denzel Ward, they all have pretty similar numbers, to be honest. They're all wrapped in the same ballpark. So all those guys, like you said, were deserving. I know Bill Barnwell had Christian Gonzalez as an all-pro. I would be stunned if he didn't make the all-pro team, especially with him not being in the Pro Bowl. I think people are going to want to make sure that he gets some kind of recognition for an outstanding season. This is a guy who, unless the team has multiple #1 caliber receivers or doesn't have any, he's following the best receiver every single week, playing more man coverage than almost any corner in the NFL, and he's getting tested. He's one of the more targeted players in the league, still producing at a high level. He's the only player in the NFL with at least 10 deep targets and just 1 reception allowed, but also no touchdowns allowed. The only other person who's allowed just 1 deep reception on 10 or more deep targets, Derek Stingley Jr. The 1 touchdown that he allowed was to Kayshon Boutte on Drake May's first career touchdown. So yeah, it's kind of like Christian Barmore last year, where defensive tackle is such a stacked position. You could have a Pro Bowl caliber, all-pro caliber season and still not necessarily get rewarded because it's so deep. But I still think Gonzo's different. I think he and Patrick Surtain really are the 2 best corners in the NFL. Yeah. I think Stingley's right there. You know, plenty of really good corners in the league. And yeah, again, I don't think he was going to play this weekend. We're expecting him not to play because he's still out with concussion. Don't expect him to. But yeah, he's deserving. He'll make the all-pro list. I actually also looked up some stats to differentiate him from the guys who are in the Pro Bowl. So all of these stats are man coverage stats for places where there was only 1 Pro Bowler ahead of him, and he was second in these. So 1, coverage snaps in man coverage, yards per coverage snap allowed in man coverage, conversion rate allowed in man coverage, and explosive reception rate allowed in man coverage. Gonzo was also second in incompletions forced with 10. That was behind only Sauce Gardner, and he had 0 missed tackles, obviously tied for the fewest in man coverage in the NFL. So dude still out ahead of a hell of a season. He absolutely deserves recognition. He'll get it soon.
He will. I think he'll, like you said, I think he'll probably end up with an all-pro nod. I think when fans see that mixed with hopefully a better Patriots team next season, maybe a couple more primetime games, maybe they get flexed into primetime games down the stretch. Not going to put those expectations on them, but I think once fans start to understand that, hey, this guy is one hell of a player, he'll probably get the fan vote there. All right, let's move on. Thursday, we'll do the injury report. Then we'll get into our players to watch. Pretty much the same list as yesterday, Taylor, except Kayshon Boutte returns from an illness. He was a full participant today. Ben Brown, Christian Gonzalez, Jalen Polk did not practice once again. That tells me it's easy. Cole Strange gets the started center again. Jalen Polk and Christian Gonzalez shut down for the season. Shelf Jalen Polk. Unfortunately, we won't get to see him on the field. That's just my read. Maybe he returns tomorrow and is questionable for Sunday, but it feels like his season's probably done. As far as limited, Kyle Duggar once again, Hunter Henry, Anthony Jennings, Titus Leo, Jabril Peppers, Brendan Schooler, Sione Takitaki, Jelani Tavai, Caden Wallace, and Drake May once again limited. So a long list there. I joked to myself anyway that when I saw right hand injury for Drake May, that was just them saying his arm is tired, his hand hurts, we're not going to play him. This gives us an excuse to get off. Obviously, he's probably dealing with something, but once again, limited. So what do you read from this injury report? How do you think it shakes things out for Sunday?
That was a lot of starters who I think shouldn't play a whole lot this weekend. No. That's probably the biggest thing, because I know that Mayo keeps saying, oh, we want to win, da-da-da-da. But it's like you need to understand the context of the game. Also, I think it was forget who it was on Twitter. I'm so sorry that I'm forgetting right now. But somebody pointed out how, he said, I've never been on a team that didn't care about winning. When in 2014, in the last game of the season against the Bills and Kyle Orton, Jimmy Garoppolo played the entire second half of the game for Tom Brady. Gronk and Edelman didn't play at all.
Matt Vitor from Mass Live pointed it out.
Great job. Yes. That was a great point by him. Another moment where, I understand Mayo says that. And I get what he means by it, so I'm not really holding him under the fire for that one.
He meant not tanking.
But it's true. Like, literally, Belichick has done it, where for them it was because you wanted to keep people healthy for the playoffs. I think it's important to just keep guys healthy going into next season period, because you are playing backups. Again, if you were playing actual Bills, I would feel differently, because I do think that could be some kind of positive momentum beating Josh Allen even after. And then it's okay, 2 out of the 3 weeks, you beat Josh Allen and you're competitive with the Bills. It sucks that you weren't competitive in 2 of those games, but you know what? That's a division opponent. That matters. You're not seeing Josh Allen. Probably not seeing a lot of the starters, at least not for very long. Just doesn't make sense for you to go all out to win this game, because you're not going to get a whole lot of credit from the outsiders. And I don't see how ownership feels any different about you beating up on backups after you got blown out by a good team. So I think those guys shouldn't play. Jalen Polk, it's super disappointing. This was probably his best opportunity to get consistent snaps, maybe find some kind of a rhythm in game and build something, but it seems like his season is going to be over. Obviously, a very disappointing rookie campaign after he truly did show flashes early this season. I know people like to say, oh, what are you talking about? Even though I literally have a thread on my account of not only tape that I saw in times that I thought he looked good and everybody was so excited about it at the time, but also stats that show that he was getting open early on before he moved to X full-time. And even Matt Harmon and other respected names saying that, yes, Jalen Polk was not being used very well, but that he was at least showing some positive flashes. Hope that a full off season training with Drake May, then a whole spring and summer will allow him to get some positive momentum, and then obviously live up to the expectations that we had of him early this season. But Javon Baker, I mean, I don't really see a whole lot of reason for him not to get a ton of reps, if not maybe in the second half. Like, even while Drake May is still in there, I think you still got to mix him in to some degree like you were doing with Jalen Polk. So those are my big ones. Yeah, Ben Brown, tip of the cap to him, man. He worked his butt off, really gave the Patriots a lot. Obviously didn't end on the best note, but still, the level of play that he gave you for somebody who you signed midweek, obviously everybody knows the story, but really impressive there. And Christian Gonzalez, not going to say it's a blessing in disguise. It's a brain injury. Those are never good. But I'm just glad there is no chance that he's playing this weekend. He shouldn't have been playing, period. It's not even like the Bills have a necessarily, like I said, intimidating receiving core. Bolden, Alex Austin, get those guys as many reps as you can get them. Marcellus Dial even, mix him in. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Glad Gonzo's season's over. Great sophomore campaign. Keep it rolling.
Yeah, we'll hit on some of those young guys in just a second as we quickly run through some players to watch. But yeah, just to kind of not bury his head in the sand, the poor guy. But Jalen Polk finishes his rookie campaign, which is 12 catches for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. And compared to all the guys around him in the draft class, not just Ladd McConkey, but from top to bottom, it's certainly disappointing for someone who, the Patriots trade back. They it looks like they land their guy, someone who you mentioned he had a positive start to the season, but even back in training camp, looked like he had a decent rapport with Drake May early on. He sort of turned himself into a starter after the first week and a half, where all of a sudden he was getting reps. It looked super promising, and then it just took a nosedive, at some point this season. So once again, too bad, but hopefully train off-season, Drake May, clear the head, and get this thing rolling next season for Jalen Polk. All right, let's talk about some of our players to watch for Sunday's game, Taylor. But before we do, quick word from our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is, hold on. Now I'm gone. Game Time. It is the best place to get tickets right now for the NFL playoffs. They have their new feature. It's called Game Time Picks, and it makes getting tickets for events even easier. The feature filters out all of the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. They have curated deals that make it easier to find the best prices on great seats. They have super deals. They have on-time ticket delivery. They obviously have their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, all that good stuff. I know all about job loss. And if I bought tickets, I would not want to have them. Taylor's dying. I wish you guys could see him. But good thing for Game Time, they have their job loss protection. So it's awesome, quick, and easy to get your money back. So head over to Game Time today if you want to check if you want to get to any games in your area. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And unfortunately, Taylor, the new copy does not have our slogan. But anyway, what time is it?
Game time.
It is Game Time. Like we said, Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS. You get $20 off that first purchase. And right now, if you want to see the Patriots potentially not tanking, but if you want to see some of these young guys we're about to talk about, if you head over to the Game Time app right now, you can get into Bills at Patriots for as little as $42. That is with the all-in ticket price toggle turned on. So no hidden fees. That's exactly what you'll pay. And now we're going to talk about said players that you may be able to check out. So first and foremost, Taylor, talking about AVP and DeMarcus Covington earlier, what AVP did also mention in that presser was that Joe Milton got his first team reps this week in practice. Now, from myself talking to Joe Milton earlier this year, he told me that he never took reps with the first team offense. He was always on the scout team. And then a couple other media members spoke with Milton today, and he mentioned to Doug Kyde that it was his first team reps all season long. So relatively new for him. He's obviously been studying the playbook behind the scenes, but looks like he's getting some reps, which tells me he'll probably be active on Sunday and most likely get out there and play. So before we get into the rest of the players, just quickly on Joe Milton, if and when he gets out there, what do you expect from him? What do you want to see from number 19 in his first regular season NFL action?
I'd like to see more control as a passer, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, I think in this preseason, he definitely showed some positive flashes, but I think we all know that thing he does where he kind of sits in the pocket and then just fires it as far as he can. Like, that's not how you play NFL quarterback. Right. And I do think that Mayo pointed out that he's gotten much better in terms of reading coverages, which is one of the more exciting things you were hoping for out of him. And the way they developed Drake May, you were hoping that they could do a similar thing for Joe Milton. Obviously not the exact same kind of player, but a guy with so many tools where it's just like, all right, let's harness these and try to get the most out of him. And we've seen with Drake how his eyes are consistently in the right place. He gets through his progressions really well. That's a credit to him. But Joe Milton, he's a pretty smart guy as well. So it's hard to say what I'm expecting because he's going to be working with guys he probably doesn't throw to very often. And it is a pretty big change from being the scout team quarterback. I'm hoping to see obviously some highlights like, young man, you got nothing to lose in this game. You could throw a couple picks, but I just want to see the guy ball out. Like what Bledsoe told Brady, like, F it, go out there and sling it. That's the mentality I want him to have. I'm sure that Jacoby will tell him something similar to that when he gets out there.
So do you expect Jacoby to get any reps in this game, or do you think it's only May and May?
It would make no sense for Jacoby to step foot in this game.
I agree. And I think if they asked him to, and rightfully so, he would probably tell them to F off. Like, I'm not going in this game. I have money to make next season. I'm on a 1-year deal. I'm not getting hurt in this thing. I've been the consummate pro. You took the C off my jersey. Nobody knows why, but Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't expect to see him, and if I was him, I would say no as well. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting. Milton was up and down for what we saw from him in the preseason. There were some highlights, there were some lowlights, obviously, but will be exciting to see again what you sort of have at the backup quarterback position outside of Drake May, because again, Brissett's not under contract. I've sort of vouched for him coming back. The idea of him coming back anyway. However, the conversation he had with Mike Reese a couple weeks ago feels like he's probably looking to go elsewhere. But if this is Brissett's last game, great pro, help Drake May, and hopefully we get to see what Joe Milton can bring at the backup quarterback position. All right, what else are you looking for? What players to watch? I'll kind of give you the floor. I know we want to talk about some young receivers, or at least one young receiver in Javon Baker, but offensive linemen, defenders, give me everything you're looking for in this game outside of the normal starters that we normally tend to see.
Yeah, there's 3 young offensive linemen on this team that you're hoping have some kind of future. Obviously, Cole Strange, you'd like to be David Andrews' successor. Left guard, you'd love it if Layden Robinson could show you that he can really hold down that spot and be the counterpart to Mike Nwenu. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Mike Nwenu, you'd like Caden Wallace to be the tackle next to him for the foreseeable future. Now, Layden Robinson has shown signs of growth. I think mentally the game is still, coming to him. You can see it when sometimes he looks really confused sometimes when he's blocking, especially in the run game. I think he's gotten a lot better in terms of pass pro. The technique is still raw. His hand placement's kind of rough, where joke about it, that Ed Oliver game. I think he punched him in the face 3 or 4 times. He won a couple of times, but Ed Oliver also beat him a couple of times. And then there were also times where he'll overset a little bit too far, leaving himself vulnerable to get beat outside. And also because he's a taller guy, he'll have high pads and get kind of walked back into the quarterback. All things he can improve, but you don't see the quick losses that you used to see. Really, it's just understanding when he's going to see line games and what his assignment is in the run game. But really more than I thought I was going to see from Layden Robinson. So that's a positive. Again, still a lot of room to grow. But man, if he and Caden Wallace do work out, this draft class looks a whole lot different. Caden Wallace only got 15 snaps, not a ton of chances to really show what he could do. Had one awesome play, though, where he and Jaheim Bell had a combo block. He ends up pancaking his first guy. Somebody runs into him while they're pursuing the play. Caden, picks him up and drops him. Pretty much a suplex. That was freaking awesome. He also got bull rushed pretty badly, so it was kind of I'd say they cancel each other out. One play was egregiously bad. One was freaking awesome, so that's a wash. He missed a block on the second level, but then in pass pro, no really glaring losses outside of the bull rush. So want to see more from those guys. I want to see really good play, especially if you're playing backups, you need to dominate. That's just my expectation, because we're looking at you as starters, not just, third rounder, fourth rounder. No. Do we need to go in free agency and get a Patrick McCarry, maybe get a Trey Smith, so we know for sure that we've got some pieces? They should do that anyway. I don't think this game should be the end all be all, but it's at least encouraging if you see those guys dominating inferior competition. Then Cole Strange, I think physically he made very few mistakes. It's all mental for him. Getting the snap off right, making the correct call, picking up blitzers, and getting off your assignment when necessary to make sure there's no internal pressure. I just want to see a mental stride from really all of these guys, but especially Cole, because he's been in the league for a while. Missed more time than both of them, so you got to give him some level of grace. But I just want to see some growth. And also, Cole, yeah, you need to be dominating up front because you've been in the league for a while. Again, last week, physically, not many mistakes. He said that he felt good, he didn't feel gas. He felt like physically he was on point. So offensive line perspective, those 3 guys really, really need a strong showing to give you some level of optimism going into the future.
Just question for you on the O-line before we move on to, receivers and DBs and stuff. So last week, it was the starting offensive line that we had seen with Lowe and Layden, Strange, Onwenu, and then Trey Jacobs. And then they sort of started to move guys in and out. Onwenu sat down, Lester Cotton goes in, and then Caden Wallace obviously goes in towards the end of the game for Trey Jacobs. But they kept Drake May in, and I didn't like that. I don't think a lot of people liked that. It didn't make a ton of sense. But Strange and Layden have already played in front of Drake May before, but do you trust them to, or do you think they could start Caden Wallace at right tackle, or do you think you start with Trey Jacobs, keep it status quo in front of May, and then once you take May out of the game, then you give Caden Wallace his chance, or do you think that's a position where it's kind of interchangeable at this point?
I think the only reason you don't start Caden Wallace is you don't think he's healthy enough. I think Trey has been as solid as you could expect, and I do think that Especially last week, I thought he had a couple bad losses, but considering he was going up against like Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa as a guy who was just cut by the Broncos before the Patriots signed him, like I thought he was fine. Maybe you want to see more from him. I think he's a free agent, but he might be a restricted free agent. So, or an exclusive. I'm not always, I don't know how those work, to be honest.
Sure.
I got to ask Miguel. But he seems like he would be back if they want him back. I think he's a good fit in the scheme. I think that he's a good backup. Like one kind of positive is that all these guys getting thrown into the fire have shown you if they replace them with starting caliber veterans, you got some pretty damn good depth and you know exactly what you're going to be getting out of them. Maybe they still put Trey in for a couple of drives because he is still a young player. But really, I think the only reason that Caden shouldn't see the majority of those reps is just he's not 100% healthy. And they're really just trying to get him any live reps under his belt before, obviously, the season's over.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. Now, it's Jalen Polk. It's Javon Baker. Polk obviously isn't going to play. We can also loop Jaheim Bell into this mix. Right now, I don't believe Javon Baker has registered a catch all season. He is 0-for-0, hasn't done anything.
No catches.
Had a couple reps. I think Jaheim Bell, they're all J's. Jalen, Javon, and Jaheim.
Very confusing, yeah.
Very confusing. But Jaheim Bell, I think 2 catches for 1 yard over the games he's played. So not a ton of production from those two. Again, doesn't look like Jalen Polk is on track to play this weekend. But if Baker and Bell get more reps in this game, what do you want to see from those guys? And is that a position where you could see them going out there with Drake May early in this game? Or is this a strictly Joe Milton, Javon Baker, Jaheim Bell show?
I think it makes more sense to rotate the receivers early with Drake. Because if you did it last week, there was some level of like you wanted to see how he worked with the young guys, I would assume. So yeah, I think that should start early on, especially the veterans. Like with Drake, if you want him, like we talked about it, he needs to end on a positive note because he hasn't played very well the past 2 games. Last week was probably his worst full game as a pro. So he definitely needs to be out there. And I kind of get a little more experience, like fine, whatever. Hunter Henry does not need to be out there a ton, especially if he's already banged up and like that. Right. Already, Jaheim Bell is pretty much his backup. That's who should be getting a lot of those snaps.
Yeah.
Then Kayshon Boutte, maybe use him more at Z because Kendrick Bourne, to be honest, I think if you address the receiver position well, at this point, I don't know that he should even be back. You should bank on the young talent because Kendrick Bourne, yes, he's talented. He makes plays. He also makes glaring mistakes that veterans should not be making. Maybe it won't look as bad if you get a couple other older guys around him, but like I really do think if Javon Baker, Jalen Polk live up to what you think they are, like what are you going to cut Kayshon Boutte for Kendrick Bourne?
Right.
No. So yeah, I think that Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry should definitely be rotating pretty heavily in the game. Again, Kayshon Boutte more at that Z type. Honestly, Javon Baker at Z too. I wouldn't mind seeing how that works out, but I think they want to keep him at. I know he plays both. I figure they probably want to keep him at X for the most part, though. But yeah, that's really what I'm hoping for is that we see less of Henry and Bourne, guys who are more established, who have a lot more time and just don't need to be taking up a ton of snaps, and give Drake May a chance to maybe see if he can get something going with those guys.
Do you expect anything out of Javon Baker? And it's kind of a silly question, but like from what we've seen of him, from what we've heard from Alex Van Pelt, is he's not really putting it all together in practice, so they don't want to put him out there in the game just yet.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, it's fine. No, you're fine. They put him out there though in the game a couple times, and they're still not going his way. I know you. I know what you were gonna say, but so what do you make of that whole situation as far as being ready, messing up guys, not being in the right place at the right time, kind of screwing up everybody else's timing if you're not on the same page as all the other 10 guys?
Yeah, I think I just don't know unless he gets momentum early, like you get him a screen, he gets a big gain or a slant against off coverage. I just don't know that he'll be able to play fast because he doesn't have where would the confidence be coming from? I think he's probably going to continue to be in his head unless he has a great week of practice. Like it's just hard to see a reality where Baker, I'd love to see him go off for 100 yards. I don't see how that happens without a couple busted coverages. Maybe you exploit off coverage opportunities to really just get him some easier touches. I don't know. I'm not expecting much, to be honest. I would love to see a deep catch, just a sign of life or something like that. But
like that one that May hit him with in the breadbasket in the preseason that he dropped.
Like he catches that kind of throw. I'm like, cool, awesome. I saw it. I'm good. Like that's probably the most I would be expecting is him making a deep catch, and then Jaheim Bell maybe like taking a screen pass for a lot of yards. But like, yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's I don't want to say it's not fun because it could be exciting if these guys can kind of get some momentum going into next season. But even a four catch, yeah, even a 4-catch, 85-yard game from Javon Baker, like it's cool and all, but if it's only there, against the Bills backups just because it's the last game of the season, well, how much does it really mean? Again, it's better than him not going out there. It's better than being a Jalen Polk situation where he's not even playing in the game. But again, we'll see what happens with the offense. All right, what do you got for us on defense? What young guys are you looking for to step up and play on defense in this Patriots season finale?
They don't have a lot of options. It's really just the defensive backs. The linebackers, like Christian Ellis is technically young, but he's also considered a veteran. I think like he plays a ton. It's not really like he needs to prove anything. It's just like,
and him going out there is not. It's not like adding responsibility to his plate. It's not like, oh, this is your chance type of thing. He's been doing it all season long because of injury.
Yeah, like him and Jeremiah Farms to me are kind of in the same boat in that way. I would say Alex Austin, obviously, this is a game where you'd like to see him kind of similar to the offensive lineman. I'd like to see you dominate. You're someone that we're thinking maybe you're a starter down the road, potentially even a rotational kind of piece. Make some plays, get a pick, force some incompletions. He had a good game a few weeks ago. I want to see that again. Isaiah Bolden, I think this is a game where he has to play a ton, obviously, because you're probably not going to have Christian Gonzalez. So take advantage of those opportunities, man. Hopefully they use him in the slot and outside so he can show that maybe he's got a little bit of versatility, show what he can do mentally because the slot is a little bit more mentally demanding. Just show us what all that athleticism and that versatility that you showed at Jackson State can do at the professional level against lesser competition. And then even Marcellus Dial, maybe he bumps into the slot. He spent some time there during the preseason. I know in garbage time he's gotten some snaps. Get a chance to show if maybe he's shown some kind of growth as a defensive back, because he did struggle as a corner during the preseason. Also, Marte Mapu, we talked about it. He is so odd because the playmaking like instincts and range are there, but also like his awareness is so bad at times that it completely nullifies his playmaking ability and range. And it's very frustrating. Like the tackling is super inconsistent. So maybe put together your best game of your career, minimize the mistakes, end on a high note. And Del Pettis, a guy who I think doesn't get enough credit, is someone who this coaching staff this front office added and has been good for them. He's been the personal protector, done a really good job at that. Had obviously the fake that led to a conversion a couple weeks ago in Buffalo. And it's been pretty solid when called upon as a defensive back. Has been perfect? No. He's given up a few big plays, but they're none where you're like, oh my God, this guy can't make it in the league. It's, this is a guy who is an undrafted rookie and is going to have to get some more experience under his belt. But I really think is like a fourth, maybe like emergency-ish third safety for the team. I think he does have a future on this squad as more than just a special teamer. So those young defensive backs are really the headliners of, you got a big opportunity here to maybe carve out a role for yourself or show that you can be something for us. Let's see what you got.
I will close it out with two before we wrap this thing up. Number one, Terrell Jennings. I wonder if he gets any reps at back. They signed him to the active roster a couple weeks ago. I can't remember if he was inactive the last couple weeks or if he was in and out, but never got any reps at the back position. Maybe Ramondre Stevenson, you sit him down, keep him healthy, also potentially keep him off because his risk of coughing up the football. But wonder if they give Jennings some reps down the stretch. And then Isaiah Bolden, the kick returner. I've been asking for it since week one. Just put him out there, see what you got. Antonio Gibson and JaMychal Hasty, two veterans at this point in their careers, guys who you know what they are as your kick returners. Get them off the field, get Bolden in there, see what he can do.
Javon and Bolden.
Exactly. Yeah, put Javon back there too. That's right. He started. He was back there at some point this season as well. So that's what I'm looking for in this one. So I guess we'll close it out with this, Taylor. What's your prediction for this game? Give me a score prediction. Give me a score prediction. You got to do it. Take everything into account. We don't know if May plays. We know if May plays. Joe Milton's in. Joe Milton's out. Just swing the bat. What do you got? What's your prediction?
Just because I'm hoping for a reverse jinx here, so I'm going to go Patriots 13-3, 13-6, 13-6.
Okay. I'm going to go.
Honestly, that might be too nice to the defense, to be honest. I'm going to go. I'll go 13-10.
I'm going to go 20-14 Bills. Patriots land the number one pick. I think Trubisky and those backups can do a little bit more against a Patriots defense that is struggling and is going to try and get some young guys in there. So I do think the Bills come out with this one. I do think the Patriots land that number one pick. But that is going to do it now for us for in-season Patriots Daily podcast. We'll have our post-game show this Sunday after Patriots versus Bills, and then we are on to the offseason here on the show. A ton of changes, or I don't want to say a ton of changes, but a ton of questions to be answered in the offseason. So we will obviously be back next week to get it all done. But thank you guys for watching. We'll be back soon. Anything else, Taylor? You got anything on your mind before we get out of here?
I'm good, babe.
Let's do it. All right, sounds good. Well, I'll see you Sunday. We'll see you Sunday. Until then, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Peace out, everyone.